Obviously, it's very well known that the Indian economy will be a huge beneficiary of this lower oil price given their own resource constraints. But also we feel fairly positive about the Indian economy this year overall. Certainly the current account position has improved considerably since last year, and I think we're seeing, or on the verge of a whole range of policy initiatives to be handed down by the Modi government. I think Indonesia, on the other hand, has a lot of structural issues that it has to tackle, in particular the deficit, but it will receive some respite from these weaker oil prices.
On to a more broad macro question, Matt. If consensus is correct and the Fed does hike mid-2015, where does that leave EM Asia?
Well, obviously a strong US dollar and rising US rates is overall a negative for Asia. But saying that, I'm not quite as optimistic that the Fed might start raising mid this year. I noticed that over the weekend, Chicago Fed President Charles Evans actually came out quite openly and flatly said that he doesn't actually think that rates should go up until 2016 because they want to see more evidence of that 2% inflation target, which seems more their imperative at this stage.
Right. Matt D. here in London. Shri asked you about the oil beneficiaries, the beneficiaries of a low oil price, but on the flip side, some of the losers. I mentioned Russia, as well as in your region, Malaysia. How much more can these countries take? I'm talking about Russia especially, that has already blown through some $88 billion supporting the ruble last year alone and continues to blow through its foreign currency reserves to support the ruble amid these lower oil prices.
Oh, look, I do agree with you, Dee. I've just been a bit surprised as to how all the media really is focused on how a lower oil price is such a good thing on an almost universal basis, when the reality is a number of nations and states around the world rely on oil-related revenues in order to balance their own budgets. In the US particularly, a lot of high-yield debt is invested in the energy complex. A lot of investors have their portfolios heavily invested in the energy sector. So, it's not a one-way bet where everyone's going to be a beneficiary. And obviously Russia and Mr. Putin, I mean, he can't improve things now just by choosing to arrest another oligarch or the shirt front someone. So obviously some more radical action will be required at some point.
And, slower global growth has certainly been a headwind, and we're reminded of that as we head into the U.S. earnings season. We're expecting to see a lot slower pace of profit growth. When are we going to start to see some of these effects, the beneficial effects of a lower oil price on the global economy?
Well, I think it will, going back to what Shri asked earlier, I mean, it will benefit certainly some Asian economies, because we're certainly of the view that both the US and a number of the large Asian economies will largely be the drivers of much global growth this year, while other certain major economic blocs, such as Europe, are still staring down the barrel of potential deflation. So, look, I think we'll get a better idea as we progress through earnings season that starts this week.